What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now movement. This week, I sit down with Dane Maxwell. This conversation with Dane took an absolutely unexpected turn. You see, when we sat down, I expected to talk about money, how to scale business, and how we can all become millionaires. But what we talked about was something that truly affected me and the way that I think about a lot of things, specifically identity. What is my identity? Where did it come from? What does that even mean? And I'm sure a lot of you out there listening are people who are trying to figure out, how do I identify in this world? And what does that even mean? Where did this come from? Why do I identify as this or this or this? And this conversation is absolutely incredible. You see, Dane almost didn't think there was a place for him to belong anywhere, but business saved his life and gave him a sense of purpose and significance. That kind of belonging that gave him endless fuel because he had never felt it before. Dane started 16 businesses and he failed a lot, 11 of those 16 times. Each time he learned, figured out what worked and what didn't, and has started 5 successful, profitable businesses. He's gone on to create over 15 millionaires with his teachings. He specializes in helping underdogs start successful businesses. Dane also has a passion for singing, and he's the author of an upcoming book, Start From Zero, which I highly recommend all of you guys grab because this content is absolutely inspiring. Now, before we get to the episode, as always, I want to remind you guys that Growth Now Movement Live is right around the corner. We are less than 90 days away, and tickets are flying. And I just want to make sure that the room is packed with people who truly want to be inspired to live a better life, to be happier, have stronger relationships, build their businesses, and build amazing relationships with friends, mentors, and so much more. So make sure you head over to gnmlive.com, grab your tickets right now, because it is going to be an epic day and a half of self-development, inspiration, and so much more. Can't wait to see you guys there. Now, without further ado, let's get to the episode with Dane Maxwell. Dane, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Jeremy Ryan Slade introduced us, and I looked into your story and I'm like, yes, I need this conversation. My audience needs this conversation. And I'm just really excited to dive in. But why don't we start with who is Dane today? And then we'll break down how you got there.
First thing that comes up is I'm a new father.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Loving father, loving relationship. Continue to open my heart there. And my whole journey with wealth is taking on a new trajectory because of my daughter. I just want to come out and say immediately, like, one of the things that I'm really learning is that for myself is how often I'm in fear, and that in some senses, fear is a choice. And that choice could be immediately corrected if you were to pick up like one of the greatest books on the topic that you fear. And like by simply just sitting down for a week and reading that book slowly for a week, your fear would be gone. And NASA is also famous for saying, the more you know, the less you fear. And these guys send people to the moon.
Right.
And so like, just to think of that, like, you don't have to live in fear. I don't have to live in fear. Fear is truly a choice that could be corrected by reading one good book on a topic. For example, I really have feared investing. And so I'm very good at making money through practice and through a tremendous amount of failure. But I command an income, a passive income, and that is just wonderful. I have a low multi-million-dollar software company per year that runs fully automated without me, that's got a CEO in place that I built, that I put people in place, and that I taught a bunch of other people how to, and I've got 15 people now that are multi-millionaires that were students of mine So I know how to make money, and it's a gift, and my ego can get wrapped up in it, and I wish it didn't. But I still have fear around investing, because it seems so weird. Like, wait a second, like, because I could sell you something if it was aligned for you, and then you'd give me money and I'd give you the product, and that makes sense.
Right.
But when it came to investing, it's just like, what the? You send money into this fictitious S&P 500, and then supposedly 50 years later you have more. What?
I always thought to myself, like, I could literally lose my life savings if the CEO gets the flu and they think he's going to die.
If you're invested in one company.
Yeah, but like that's crazy to think about, right? Like it's how quickly it can turn. It is terrifying. But
so do you mind if I close this thought?
Of course.
Thank you. So my daughter's now born, and I have a strong enough desire to face the fear, because now I want to provide for her really bad, like tears welling in my eyes. Provide for daughter, give everything to her. And I mean, that's an inexplainable feeling, except I just explained it, I guess. But like, and so I'm looking at investing. So get this. So I can, if I've got this figured out right, I haven't pulled it through yet, but from what I understand is I can make Everly, my daughter's name, I can make her an employee in one of my companies and give her a very, very small percentage, like 0.5%. That will give her an earned income. With an earned income, I can now open a custodial Roth IRA. I can contribute $300 to $5,500 per year into a custodial Roth IRA for her. I've decided I'll probably put $3,000 a year into a custodial Roth for her. So by the time she's 10, she'll have $30,000 in investment dollars at age 10. By the time she's 20, at 9.5% compounded interest per year, by the age 20, it'll be around $180,000 that she'll have when she's 20.
Wow.
Now she can take out the principal of 30,000, and then the rest of the 150 can grow tax-free for the next 45 years up to age 65. If this math is correct, by the time she's 65, she will have close to $10 million. Wow. And Albert Einstein mentioned that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. But when you think about 10 grand earning 10% turns into 11 grand, 11 grand earning 10% turns into like 12,000 something, 12,000 something gets 10%. It just compounds and compounds and compounds and compounds, and it gets nuts. And when I learned that and I started doing these investment calculators, my fear was gone. And I realized that I was living in a choice of fear around that investing. And so now I've just been kind of on this bender of like, what are the things that I fear and how can I face those? And real fear, like for me, is not comfortable. It causes my body to spin out. I want to hide. I start to feel really ugly. Then, I'm like, crap, nobody's going to love me. Do I love myself? And that'll happen for like a good 3 minutes, and the thoughts will be super strong, and I can just lay witness to them going on and understand that those aren't me. Those are just thoughts and feelings, and then return to the moment, etc. So anyway, like to give my daughter a potential $10 million, but when she's 65, by doing what I told you, it's pretty damn cool.
Now, have you found when you're put into a situation, obviously, when you think about this fear and then the fear goes away, at least to investigate it more when your daughter was born, do you think you need those life-changing moments in order to even recognize the fact that you should overcome the fear? Because I think it's human nature to be, I'm going to run away from that fear like you were stating. So how does somebody, without having a daughter or something massive like that, want to like get in the mode of want to tackle those fears and do the research? So
that's a dang good question. How would you answer it?
I ask the questions around here. That's a great, I would.
You've talked to a lot of people now.
I have. For me to think about it from that standpoint, fear to me is the ultimate setback in anything that we can do. So if I look at my life and say, hey, I fear loss, somebody dying or me dying, I'm going to do all the research I can to not be afraid of that end result. Right. And so I think for me, it would just be to the opportunity to be able to get over these things that are stunting my growth. That's enough for me in general.
Sorry about that. That come through okay over there? You still with me?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. My mic just dropped.
No, you're good.
The mic. No, I'm just kidding.
This is the end, guys.
So you did research.
Right.
Research. So I think, what I would say to this is we're on a new frontier. It's 2020. And I think that we're getting a little bit more sensitive to our emotional systems. And I think that I want to help lead both men and women emotionally into the new frontier to show people that we're not our feelings, no matter how much we think we are. And to think about like the most important thing in the world that I can think of that matters is what we think of ourselves. So, like, what do I think of myself? Worthless piece of blah. One of my friends said he used to consider himself a gutter rat, and that created a lot of rigidity in his body. Like our thoughts, like create our identities, and these create personalities, and the personality is malleable, and we can change our personality. And so if I work with people on stuff like this around like motivation or life alignment or wanting things to go a certain way and they're just not going a certain way, or they're caught in what's called like entrepreneur land, which is usually a word that's an intellectual word for a deeper feeling of being a failure. Like we have to understand as a whole the importance of the emotional system, and that when fear is felt, it is scary and it's not comfortable. And I think there's been a lot of training that's been in the 80s and the 90s about, Tony Robbins will say, change your state, get into state. But then when that state wears off and the fear is still there, how about we work with the fear in such a way where we don't have to change our state to overcome it, but we could welcome fear like a best friend until we have no armor on and we have abundant energy because we're not fighting our emotional system anymore. So what I would say, if someone is wanting to make a change and they're not there yet, I would ask you to just ask yourself, what do you think of yourself? And you'll probably find it's not something very kind. And then I want to tell you some of the most amazing news in the world is that whatever you think of yourself at the end of the day is a thought that is not you, but that thought can be held. Because the person that notices the thought, like let's say you say, what do you think of yourself? Oh, worthless piece of garbage, trailer, trash, crap, failure. Like, and it can get pretty nasty what we think of ourselves.
Right.
And then I ask you, what within you is noticing that? Because the thing that something has to notice that thought. And the thing that's noticing that thought is already free. The thing that noticing that thought, that's more of who you are than anything. And what we actually are is complete infinite potential. Like, and it's not BS. It's like we're in infinite awareness, looking at an experience called worthless failure and thinking that's who we are. So when you realize that your identity is a thought that can be held and it's real, but not true, and you're so much greater than that, that will start to dissipate a tremendous amount of energy in your life. And then what you authentically want will just impulse out of you just as easily as you breathe. And that's when you get to effortless territory. So, but if you think like you're a worthless piece of crap, for example, or like, cause that's the one that I had struggled with a lot. Or like, let's say you think you're ugly, or let's say you feel inadequate as a man and you want to prove yourself to men. You can tell I've felt all these things. I'm talking about them. Well, what you might do is you might come up with a strategy to correct or fix that. So I work with people a lot more on identity these days because it seems to be the thing that moves the needle the most. And I'm most interested in permanent results, just so I don't wear myself out. Because, you can wear yourself out trying to fix emotions when you realize that emotions like fear come from identities. So like you could work with the emotion of fear, but let's just look at the identity that's creating the fear in the first place. Because, if you have a certain identity, you'll have different feelings for different stimuli. Like if you have an identity as like, say, a potent male, you're a powerful and potent male, and an alpha female walks in the room, you'll probably have a response of, ooh, yeah, excitement, attraction. But if you have an identity of an impotent male, an inadequate male, and an alpha female walks in the room, you might have a feeling of shame. You might want to hide. And, so do you work with the shame or do you work with the identity? And the next thing that you go to is you then think about identity, and where most people get identity wrong, if not everybody gets identity wrong, is they think, okay, I'm going to change this identity. I'm going to upgrade this identity. I'm going to delete or remove this identity, or I'm going to flip the belief on the identity. What's interesting in the way that I'm learning the mind is actually wired is that if you try to change, shift, correct, fix, delete, update, upgrade an identity, you'll actually reinforce that the identity is a problem in the first place. The identity of us being impotent, the identity of not believing in ourselves, those certain identities that we hold, when they're not seen as problems, they can emerge as a feeling that could actually become very good to connect with and feel. And then just by holding it like an unconditional friend, with unconditional love, like you would a friend when they're crying, we hold that identity, and then we see it loses its trance on us, and we don't actually even have to try to fight to replace or change or upgrade an identity. So I say, I've got for example, I've got a gentleman and he struggles to create unique content. He really wants to create his own unique content. He's like, which one of my great passions is to help people find their voice in the business world.
Right.
In the business world, like how could, so you like Justin, you get a business and then you go to promote your business and all of a sudden you freeze. Like you got this great product, but you go to market it and you just shut down. Like, how do you bring your voice into the business world? This gives me chills. Like I feel my hair standing up in my body because like, how do you give voice to yourself in the business world? Work with your identity. And then you also work with the identity you have of people out there. Because you realize that if you, it's so fascinating. Like we have identities of ourselves, but then we have identities of other people. So we're going to put a message out in the world and other people are going to reject it. Well, we don't know that's true or not. What's an identity we're holding of other people? What my mentor calls a you-identity. So identity is important. It's how we identify things. And we could have identities of cities. Like I could love my city. You could hate my city. Did the city change? No. Yeah, the identity did. So the guy that's creating unique content, he really struggles to create unique content. So what could we do? We could here, let me give you my 5-step system for creating unique content. You know what? Actually, let me give you 10 examples of other people who overcame their fear to create unique content. That might even be pretty good too. But unless his deeper identity is loved, seen, held, and addressed. And, it's so fascinating. It's so exciting and so liberating when I say I think the most important thing is what we think of ourselves. When you come to this guy who struggles to create unique content, guess what his identity is? I won't ask you to guess because I'm asking you a rhetorical question, I guess. His identity was that I'm an unlikable person. Is it any mystery that someone that really thinks they're an unlikable person at an identity level has struggled creating unique content and putting it out in the world?
No.
They're inextricably linked.
Yeah.
So we help him and hold that. And he had a tremendously challenging upbringing. So we help him hold that identity. We put it in a mental basket and just hold it as real, but not true for a good 30 seconds at a time. Because it can be pretty intense. These identities need a lot of love.
Yeah.
Because they could cause you to shrivel up into a ball. And if your body's asking you to shrivel up into a ball, be good to do that. Like let the identity live in you. Let it be okay that it's there. And you hold it. So, and now he's been more productive in the last week than he has been in a long time. So, and but the reason I brought him up is because I asked him one of the things that he wanted. And he said, I want to create influential digital marketing content and become an authority in the digital marketing space. That's what he said. And I literally thought in my head, that's bullshit. So to confirm that, because it might not be, because I'm often wrong. I mean, I've had 11 businesses fail. I'm often wrong. So, I just fail really fast and a lot. But anyway, I asked him, is that what you really want? Or is that what the identity of unlikable person is trying to do to become likable? And he's like, wow. Of course, he said, oh, that's my unlikable identity. So, hey, I just saved him 3 years of effort, to creating digital marketing content. So I'd get people straight on their identity. And then they're like, I really do want to create a business because business has a lot of meaning and can provide a lot of value. And I could really help a lot of people. And business can provide me financial freedom. And it could set my family up for a legacy for lifetime. And I could build all this equity and have all this cash flow and have all these customers that love me and all these lives I'm transforming and this team that I'm providing for. And I realize there's 24 hours in a day and we all get the same amount of time. And it's not actually that much harder to run a business. It's just a matter of training. And there's this mystical world out there that makes you feel like business is some overnight success or business is some really easy thing that you push a button to. And then you go try and do it and you can't do it. And you judge yourself because you can't do it. But you've been listening to liars tell you that starting a business is actually really easy. Well, it is easy for me because I've done the bench press work. Just like someone who's bench pressed for 10 years could bench press 500 pounds easily on a bench. I can do that metaphorically in the business world because I've done my reps. So anyway, you're capable of starting a business if you get the training. and you do the reps, you do the drills, you do the skills, you work on your identity. You get that stuff done, then business is business is almost as simple as breathing, because business is very nourishing, very nourishing. You place connection ahead of a transaction. You place your customer ahead of your own desire. You look for a painful problem to solve instead of trying to come up with an idea yourself. And then you outsource to the expertise to create the product because you don't know how to create that product. And before you know it, you're just abundantly creating stuff everywhere you go. And it's just like, I kind of pinch myself, because I'm living like a fairy tale, really.
Yeah. Well, what's your identity now? Obviously, you shared it in your glimpses of what your identity may be, what it used to be. But what's your identity now?
In this moment, I'm tracking worthlessness, and I'm also tracking embarrassment, and I'm also connected to disbelief that I could be this good at something. And feeling a desire to be held, so you could say in one short word, that identity right now would be, you could say that's less than desirable. Those words might be less than desirable, but actually being okay with them being here is quite a bit of freedom. I'd say I could be a lot more vulnerable and say I'm scared. And I can tell you that those aren't who I am. So that's why I'm able to share those, because I wouldn't be able to share that if I really believed it. But identity is not who we are. And I also feel very loving, and very encouraging, and also courageous. And, the bravest thing for me to feel anymore these days, Justin, because I've been so addicted to pain without knowing it, the bravest thing that I can feel these days is to feel good. That's my new frontier. It's very comfortable to say worthless, or for me, because I've been so used to it. But the brave step for me, as my throat gets tight, would say, you know what? The identity that I can feel, which is still not even me, but it's pretty nice to feel, is good.
So why do you fear that? Like, I look at
Good
who
question.
you are now and the success that you've had. I mean, obviously the failure was there as well. But because you think you started 16 businesses and 11 of which failed, and that's a whole different conversation. But there's massive success, and you've created massive, what is financial success for other people as well, which I believe, if I'm correct, over 15 millionaires you've created.
Correct. That I can count. There's more.
Yeah, which is amazing. But why do you fear that feeling?
It might be a habit, actually, that my habit could be fear. I really want to help, man. Like, just like, like you mentioned some certain like high profile people that listen to your podcast. Like, I know I can help them, and I also, the people that are like lower on the status realm, but not on worth, but social status. Like, I know I can help them. And the reason that I feel like I can help them is because I like continue to dive into the depths of worthlessness within my heart and find out that I'm worthy. And I find out that I've tapped into spaces that are so far beyond worth that the concept of being worthy is small. Like, who we are is so beautiful that it's astounding. Like, so if I believe that I'm so like I did, like I believe that I'm worthless, and I really thought that was who I was, I went to work to fix that and become worthy as a worthy businessman, to be on the magazines like Zuckerberg or this or that. But the thing is, identity doesn't make you happy. Like, if you fix an identity to become worthy, that doesn't make you happy. Like, we know that with celebrities. Celebrities have the ideal identity, massively adored, lots of wealth, great cars, sexual validation from the opposite sex. They live in the golden gilded cage of identity. And it's because identity doesn't make us happy, because happiness is what we already are when we're no longer fixated on trying to fix an identity. So like, when you ask, like, what identity do I identify as now, when I answered worthless and this and that, those are identities. What I want to say is infinite potential is how I actually identify more than anything, if I'm in a lucid state and like I'm able to track. But it's not something I have to, ideally, it's not something you force. It's like infinite potential then can then hold all these possibilities. So I think that, when it comes to starting a business, and it comes to like finding your potential in the business world, I think that's a very sacred act. I think it's a very sacred act to explore your own inner potential. Like, like just take, like if you're listening, like take that in for a minute. Like it's not ego, it's not greed, it's not bad, and it's not wrong to explore your own inner potential and to do it as a sacred work, because there are parts of us that like search for approval. And then there's a part that we can go down to deep within our soul that's like rooted so deeply within our soul that is so far beyond approval that we're just burning bright for the sake of our soul. And like when you get to that place, then, to come back to your original question, that's where I would get someone to connect with. And then you wouldn't really have many problems with the same things you think you have problems with now.
Right. Wow.
How's this all landing so far? I feel like I'm in woo-woo land like crazy.
Well, that my audience tends to be woo-woo because I'm a little woo-woo, but I don't talk about it all the time. But it's landing super heavy in a good way with me personally, and I'll tell you why. So I carried for a really long time in my life not being like I'm not enough. Like I'm not enough for others. I'm not enough for whatever. And you probably still hear it like when we were talking before when we were talking about Sean Stevenson and how I responded to how I was so blown away that he asked me for advice, right? And so it's almost like I'm not worthy of this. And so if you shift the perspective and say, I am, I have an infinite amount of potential and live in that versus thinking the other way. I mean, I think it's massive. I think anybody can, what you're saying in this conversation is
well, can we,
for so many people.
Can I work with you on that for a sec?
For sure.
So people listening, like it's not about, so we're not going to force a thought. What you want to do is like, as you said that, like, I just had so many tears like come up because I was like, no, Justin, like, and I don't want to cuss, but for emphatic, I almost was going to, and I know it could be allowed to, but I just find it's more vulnerable for me if I don't. But like, I was like, no, dude, you're beautiful. Like that's immediately what I wanted to say. Like, when you're saying like not enough thing, like it just hit me so hard. I was like, oh man, this guy is beautiful. Like I just felt it, and anyway, that just like all my armor off. I feel like I might as well be naked in a room, everyone looking at me. But even that's a freaking identity. I'm not actually naked in a room. I've got clothes on. I'm in my basement,
right?
Which is I got a cool basement, but like still a basement.
Just sitting in a cellar type of basement.
It's not like concrete walls or anything. I'm in like a fully baller, like soundproof room with like LED lights in the bottom and the top that I had custom made and stuff. Cause work is sacred to me. Like I really treat like finding your inner potential is sacred, and like doing work is sacred. And I really think that like, well, I didn't think that until my yoga teacher like was doing some meditation, and he was like, hey man, I just like want you to know, like I heard like whatever I heard today, like whoever's talking to me just wants you to know you're doing sacred work in the entrepreneur world. I was like, whoa, such a kind thing you to say. And like, I really, really identified with that. Get it? I identified with that. Anyway, coming to, so back to Justin with the not enough. So this thing, the fastest way to freedom, the fastest way I've found to freedom is we find the very worst thing in our mind, the worst thing we think about ourselves, and become good friends with it.
Mm.
So imagine you have this not enough, and then you're like, I'm going to befriend that thing. I'm not going to reject it and choose a new thought, because then that's unconsciously trained. We're unconsciously trained to fix. If we don't feel good, we've got to fix it. If we're sick, we got to change that. Like we got to take medicine to fix the sickness and stuff. And like, that's probably a pretty good act. And it innocently gets transferred over to different feelings through, oh, I'm not feeling too good. Why aren't you feeling too good? Like, it was like, well, what's wrong with, hey, hold on. Like we're subtly taught this. So it's good not to beat ourselves up. And the unconscious like moves of its own volition, and it's not personal. Like just like our digestive system digests food, like my mentor reminds me, my digestive system digests food without my conscious thought. So does my unconscious try to keep me worthless, if that's what I believe. And it moves. So if you become really good friends with the very worst thought in your mind, you say, you know what, I'm going to become friends with this. And then inside your mind's like, no. Then you become friends with that response. and you just basically befriend whatever comes up in your mind. And as soon as you can hold your mind like a friend, it'll like relax. And so not even about choosing a different thought. It's about recognizing that what you already are is happiness, recognizing what you already are is beyond even the concept of worth, and then letting I'm not enough have all the space in the world to exist, because you know it's not who you are.
Right.
That shit's freedom. And that is what I finally learned when I finally got connected to the right people. Because, there's folks that are even teaching identity work, on YouTube and this and that. And they'll talk about how to like upgrade your identity, how to rewrite your identity, how to change your personality. And that just adds to the sickness of Western culture, where it seems in Eastern culture, like my one of my teachers told me, and I keep talking about mentors and teachers because I just don't want to take credit for some of this stuff that I'm saying, because it's just so good. And there's in the Eastern world, they work on building their internal world. In the Western world, we value building our external world, and we're forgetting what's inside.
Right.
So look at what you're thinking of yourself. Get really clear on what that thought is and be honest. Like, oh, you know what? I feel like an inadequate. And then recognize that's just a thought and hold it. What's pretty brave as a dude is to hold the fact that you feel inadequate. What's not that brave is to try to change, fix, and correct it because you actually believe it. Like hold some thoughts and be real brave. And then when you do that, your like purpose will become like, you know what? I've always been really curious about volunteering at shelters. Oh, no. I got to make money. Whoa. Is that me? Is that conditioning? What identity is that? So that, I think that's probably enough for identity for now, but that's, how did that all land for you?
That was amazing. And I talk very often about programming of the world, of saying the word hustle, which I can't stand. And,
we're all hustling for our worth for the most part. We're hustling for worth.
Right. And so we're taught this thing and we got to have this and do this and be this. And that's kind of the world we live in instead of just being us. So I love all of this, but the one word that keeps coming to mind when you're talking is depth. And I want people to understand the amount of knowledge that you've decided to go out and learn, because here's what I have from the people who reach out to me to say, hey, you should have Dane on your show. These are your topics we should discuss. Building a lucrative business with no ideas, no expertise, and no money. Heart-centered method for building income streams. And then other topics could be building info businesses, copywriting, mentoring, investing. Understand that we've not touched on any of those things. I mean, all of this is insanely valuable. So the depth in what you carry into the world is huge, man. And you should be on, in my opinion, you should be on the biggest stages, the biggest podcast, the biggest everything, because people need to hear this.
Oh man, thank you. I doubt so much everything that I'm saying right now. So it's real encouraging to hear that. I don't even have the identity stuff on the sheet, 'cause I don't even know if people grasp it, but identity is almost everything, if not everything.
Because we're all trying to grasp it, but we shouldn't even try to grasp an identity, right?
No, identity doesn't make you happy.
Right.
Like you sit there and trying to become wealthy and rich, you think that'll make you happy. It doesn't. I've got it. I've made millions of dollars. I was freaking miserable. It doesn't make you happy. Identity doesn't. Even Jim Carrey's like, I wish people could see that they could become rich and famous so they'd know that that's not the answer. Even Jim Carrey was disillusioned by it. And he went on a huge spiritual quest. I'll tell you, identity doesn't make you happy. And if I'm saying this and it's threatening you and you now feel super great compulsions to go out, no, I've got to go and do it, then you should damn well better sit and feel that compulsion, because that compulsion is going to destroy your life right now and rob you from the present moment. You do not want to be driven by compulsions, and you do not want to be driven by an identity. And I still wake up and I'm still driven by my compulsions that I'm trying to wake up to. But man, we want to relax and let life move through us, and we all have a unique essence. We all have a unique fingerprint. We all have a unique signal that we can broadcast to the world. And mine in this moment is broadcasting that, if you're listening to this, you doubt yourself, guess what? That's only a thought. So yeah, any of those topics, man, investing, business start, I'm happy to go into the specific tactics of that. To give you some contrast, for example, let's just talk about my most successful software company. So as you build your business brain, you want to go into numbers. and you want to really start measuring things. Because business is truly, and this is hard for me to say because I don't want it to be the case, but it is the case, it's about numbers. And so I can tell you, for example, that paperlesspipeline.com is my biggest software company. It was the 7th product I built. It took 8 weeks to build the first version. We released a paying version with 16 paying customers in 8 months. We now have 1,300 to 1,400 paying users that make up an average of around $185,000 in monthly recurring revenue, otherwise called MRR. Our churn rate is a 0.7%, which is under 1%, which is remarkable for the software as a service industry. The product itself adds 20 to 30 and sometimes more new paid accounts every month. So our revenue grows by anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 every month. The revenue grows. I have a CEO that runs it, and I tell him he can do anything that he wants at a 25% profit margin. And if he runs the business like that, I don't care what he does because I trust him that much. And I now have a process in place where I can abundantly create new businesses without ever having to risk any of my own money, without ever having to come up with an idea, and without ever having to build a product. And I had to get my butt kicked by one of my very first mentors on quantification and measurement before I was finally able to do that. Because my first time sitting in front of him, he said, "All right, Dane, so what business do you have?" And I was 22, 3. I was like, "Well, I'm going to make these websites for real estate companies." He's like, "All right, great. How many can you make a month?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know." He's like, "Well, how long does it take you to make a website?" And I'm like, what, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How much time, Dane? He's like, "Well, how are we going to build a business if we don't even know what your production levels can be?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this sucks." And he's like, "Yeah, I can't really do that." And then we fast forward like 6 years. I'm on the phone with the same business mentor. And he goes, "Hey, Dane, how you doing?" I was like, "Great, Bruce, we launched a new business. Took about 4 months to launch. We generated 15,336 leads in 90 days. We've got around 1,400 applicants to work with us and 336 paying customers for a 6-month program we're running to teach entrepreneurship." He's like, "Great work, man. You got the same enthusiasm, but now you're just speaking with numbers." And I tell you what, the difference between like Olympians and non-Olympians is like one of the things, and other than like insane commitment and all these other things, is like they know their numbers. They know their 100-meter dash number. They know it by heart. And so when you reduce business down to numbers, it becomes pretty dang exciting. And when you think like when I said at the beginning of the call, Justin, like if you have fear around business, know that that's a choice that could be corrected by reading a really great book or two. I've actually got a whole list of like recommended books that people can read that I can give the URL at the end of it. But one of those books on that list is called Business Model Generation. And under Business Model Generation, there's this chart that's got like 9 different things on this image. And if you fill out these 9 different things for a business model, it's pretty damn hard to fail, So get trained, really. And like once you start to realize this, you can actually start to maybe see how addicted and habituated you might be to fear. And if that's the case, that's okay. It's more than okay. So yeah, I really love helping people.
And it comes through, man. And I love that, dude. And obviously when you look at, I love how almost everything you do, you take a very similar approach. I love that. But what's the ultimate goal for you? I mean, you've created the wealth, you've created that type of success. You're now happy, you're married with a kid, all these things, right? What's the ultimate goal for you? And I know you're also doing the music thing as well, which is amazing. And we can shout that out as well. But what's your ultimate goal, man? What are you chasing?
Well, check this out. So from the music front, that just slayed me. And music was to reclaim my heart. You could say I've already reclaimed my heart, but it was like, let me get down into my heart, because business can build a very strong mind. So it took about 3 or 4 years. And then like, as I opened up into art and music, it's transformed my approach to business. Because with the book that I've got coming out, that book is called Start From Zero. And the whole brand is Start From Zero, startfromzero.com. But I've got a special URL for you guys. I'm not saying that to go there now. Start From Zero is the name of the book. But I feel like that book was given to me through like a divine channel of sorts, through like a cosmic channel, whether it was an angel or it was a God, whatever it was that came through. It was like a very loving voice and a start from zero. And then it landed in my brain and I named it and branded it. And now I'm stewarding that into the world. Like we're all given our own ideas to steward into the world. And if you can listen and become receptive. So like, and I was already almost finished with the book, just kind of still debating the title. And then when it came through, it was like, oh my gosh, start from zero, and there's just an approach that I take. So my ultimate goal, I want to get to that, but like music opened me up to being able to work this way. And like, John Mayer he wrote this really good song, and it was like, say what you need to say what you need to say what you need to say. That Bucket List song.
Yeah, great song.
Yeah, and like they interviewed him, like, how did you write such a great song? He's like, I don't know, man. I just opened up and that came through. And that's kind of how I'm doing business now. It's not kind of, it's what I am. I'm just saying kind of just a little woo for even 2020. But no, like this is the thing. Like open up and listen, and you'll know what you need to do. If you'll start working towards it. Maybe you won't know, and that's what you're just not supposed to know right now. Maybe the message isn't there yet. But with music, so check this out. So like the voice is such an interesting instrument. And so like I could sing for approval, and that might sound like yeah, 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 like yeah, yeah, yeah. And that would be like for approval. And then I could also sing for my own approval, for my own being. And that would be yeah, 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 yeah. And that'd be for me.
You got pipes, man.
What's that?
I said you got pipes, man.
Well, I worked with the best vocal coaches for 3 or 4 years.
Right.
The voice is a muscle like a biceps a muscle. And that's what we don't get. We think that, you start a business overnight. You build a voice overnight. No, 4 years. I had the same vocal coach that teaches the Guns N' Roses lead singer and like The Weeknd and like Maroon 5 and Alicia Keys he warms up before she got, like I had that vocal coach.
Wow.
And that guy's hard to get. But, I got referred in somehow and whatever. And dang, he's expensive. He was like $500, $600 an hour. But what a gift I could afford that. So like, but singing like that is just, that's a thing to like really difficult, really challenging, so much doubt. Like every time before I sing, sometimes I'll still feel like my sexual organs like shrink just a little because the fear of being exposed when you're singing, like it's a physiological unconscious reaction that I'm actually just saying out loud for the first time, because I'm just becoming aware enough to notice it. So like, right. What is my ultimate goal? Well, enjoy the moment, is one, but that almost sounds like BS. I don't know. I'm just serving as much as I can and leaving everything out on the table. Just serve, care and serve and love people so much that they are healed, because their deepest healing, people don't even really need healed, because like from the infinite potential perspective, we're already healed. We just need to hold the things that have dissonance. But like, so I just want to love and serve. And I have some clarity around that with like introducing people into the world of entrepreneurship really safely. Like I feel like I'm uniquely qualified, and I have the articulation and the distinction and the research and the track record with the results to confidently carry people into the world of entrepreneurship, from employee to entrepreneur. And I've done the personal work to understand how identity plays a part in that, where most entrepreneur trainers don't. And some do. And they probably will start turning on to it as they see how important it is. But so like, as that is like one of my sort of life callings, is to impart my entrepreneurial knowledge to the world. But like at a deeper level, it's just like unconscious serve, love. And like, I am a Leo born. I love attention. I love approval. And so I can still detect when there are parts of me that are talking to prove myself, or teaching an entrepreneurial concept for me to sound smart instead of to help someone. And I think I'm helping someone, but when I look at my intention underneath it, it's like, I think I'm maybe trying to look a little too good here. So like, I've got a guide that I'm writing right now called, how to make $1,000 in 24 hours. And so someone was like, how do you make money fast? It's like, well, I'll just go do it and then show you how I did it. So I did it, and I got around $1,500 or so in theoretical revenue that I didn't close because I didn't want to work on it because I was busy. But, I ran some Facebook ads to a new product I created and got people on the phone and sold them. And you can actually listen to the sales call. You can listen to how I create the product. You can see all the little details. So you can see there's no real magic or mystery. And the guy's not live yet, but it'll be live sometime later this year. But as I wrote it, my older sister contacted me, and she's a dueling piano player, which is baller, but it's really it's starting to wear down her body.
Wow.
Drinking, playing 4 nights a week. Like it's not a very, like, you want to love your body. Like, don't drink caffeine if you can help it. Don't smoke. Don't even drink. Like alcohol, I drink sometimes. I had a glass of wine this week, but like if your liver gets 6 ounces of alcohol, it'll immediately change your body into store fat mode. Just 6 ounces of alcohol will switch your whole metabolism over to store fat mode. Like that's something to think about.
Yeah.
Like if we love our body, so. Oh man, I was going somewhere and I've totally lost my train of thought. Because I hope I'm not too random.
No, this is great. I love all this stuff, and it's funny because,
oh, sir, thank you. Okay, I'll finish real quick. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Did you have a question? Okay, so like my sister wants some help, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I've got this guide how to make $1,000 in 24 hours. You can do this once, and you'll want to do it a bunch of times. And so I went back through and I reread it. And because I knew my sister was going to read it, I took out the parts where I might be trying to show off a little bit unconsciously. And I took out the parts that I purposely left vague to make myself sound smart. And I dumbed it down to a level that could be understood by someone who's more inexperienced. So I went through the guide and I rewrote it with a lot more love and a lot more compassion so that someone reading it wouldn't be left to feel stupid because I've unintentionally left out a part to make myself seem smart. So like serve and love and continue to see where I'm not in alignment there, and just to love deeper and deeper and deeper, because love is very, very profitable, by the way, like very profitable. Because like as a hypothetical example, if you take paperlesspipeline.com, it's a transaction management software platform. Like people say, find your passion, but like, man, you can be passionate about just about anything. And like, I'm not necessarily passionate about transaction management, but I'm really passionate about stuff that works. I'm really passionate about things that improve people's lives. And I'm really passionate about solving painful problems. And if I make my passion, solving really painful problems for people, then I can be passionate about a lot more than just say like crickets, toads, or whatever, like my passion might be. Those would be weird passions, but like,
I was like, wait, I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, no, I don't have like, if you look at a cricket, you could be like, they're crazy cool looking. Like they get all these like things going off of them and stuff. But yeah, so it's to open up to serve and love more. And I was talking about how love can be really profitable in the pipeline context. So Paperless Pipeline's transaction management software. Most real estate companies try to go paperless, and it's so painful that they just go back to paper. So they'll literally implement a software product and then find out it's so tremendously traumatic on their workflow and makes them so inefficient that they just go back to doing paper. So Paperless Pipeline was created. A broker gave me the idea. A broker gave me the idea of how to build it. He told me exactly what he wanted. And we built it, and it can be plugged into a real estate office without changing their behavior, where most products change their behavior. So now if you love your customer, you won't try to slam a product down their throat. If you love your customer, you won't boast about your product. You won't boast. You won't say you have the greatest thing in the world if you love your customer. If you love your customer, what you'll do is you'll say, I've got this really great thing I think could help you. Do you want to check it out and let me know what you think? And that kind of approach in marketing really does well. So what happens, is we ask a real estate broker, hey, have you tried to go paperless before? They're like, oh yeah, we sure have. How many times? Oh, probably we tried 3 times. Well, how long did each attempt last? Well, we tried one for 1 week, one for a month, another for lasted 2 months, and then we went back to it. Can you tell me the things that you were thinking about while you were implementing this? Like, God, I wish it could be easier. Why does it have to be so hard? Why do products have to be built by developers instead of real estate people? Like all these things. And now all of a sudden you go back and think about your marketing website. Think about this headline. Have you ever tried to go paperless? ? Did you have to revert back to paper because the process was too complicated? Did you use software that changed how you had to work? Did you ever wish that a product would be built by a real estate person for a real estate person instead of by technology people? And now all of a sudden you have this killer marketing. And it was all driven by wanting to understand your customer, not boast, not be proud, but listen and love them where they are. And then like, this is this is the magic of really building great companies, is to go out and talk to people and figure out, what they want. And you could talk to like a video editor about their painful problems with doing B-roll music, adding B-roll music, background music to their videos. And I actually did that. And I actually have an audio that people can listen to through the book. It's a 27-minute conversation, me talking to a video editor. And I asked him, are you passionate or interested about B-roll music? He's like, oh yeah, it's a huge part of my business. And I was like, well, are you paying for that? Right now, he's like, yeah. I'm like, are you happy with what you're paying for? He's like, not really. It does the job, but I wish it was a lot better. Well, what do you wish was better about it? He's like, well, I wish I could search by genre, mood, or BPM a little bit better. I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. He's building my product and business for me right in front of my eyes. So then he tells me what he wants. And so then I go on to Craigslist and I look for a local pianist, and I could probably just even get my iPhone and put it on a piano and tell him to play stuff, record it. And I've got my B-roll music. I've outsourced the product to the expert. But did I get to decide if that video editor was passionate about B-roll music? Did I get to decide if he wanted to buy that?
No,
we don't get to decide what works. We don't. And so that's actually on the book that I've written, it's 7 learning adventures you go on to build a great business that can provide you with quite a bit of freedom. And there's 7 learning adventures. And before you go on those 7 learning adventures, I teach you what's called the 3 little rocks. Little rock number 2 is that you don't get to decide what works. So you don't have to be impressive anymore. You don't have to be clever. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to come up with anything remarkable. You just want to listen and see what the hearts of people are saying. The next product I'll probably create, it's still in the early infancy. Looks like I've gotten 2 people in the last week reach out to me saying they're having huge identity conflicts as entrepreneurs, and they're not sure how to more successfully step into the identity of entrepreneur. And they're really experiencing a lot of pain around it. They could use help. And I'm just I'm doing what I'm trying to do, which is listen. But that's a scary product for me to make because I don't feel fully qualified, even if I'm good at it. I don't feel certain about a product like that because I don't think anything like it's ever been made. And or if it is, I haven't found it and I'd love to see it. / I don't know if I'd want to look at it because it might jade my opinion to something that may not even work, because a lot of times products aren't actually very effective and they're still purchased. But a lot of people look at competition not knowing that the competition is probably looking at you.
Right.
But so that product is very uncomfortable to build, the identity one, because it's I've never done that before. I have no idea what it needs to look like. It's not okay, let's go find a problem. Let's get a customer. Let's build it. I know that's comfortable. But moving into the vulnerable territory of this new product on, helping people build identities as entrepreneurs, so they take their own initiative. They lead without getting direction. They can solve their own problems automatically on their own. They learn how to develop resilience and longevity in entrepreneurship. And what I've noticed comes from how you relate to your problems. So, as an entrepreneur, amongst many things, longevity is really defined by how you relate to struggle. And if you have identity conflicts and struggle comes up, you'll probably feel annihilated.
Right. I love that you're working on that stuff, because it's insanely important. And I love what I'm receiving from you, which is, you truly find problems that people are dealing with and you solve them for them. It's not about the money. It's not about even business. It's about solving problems for people. And I love that.
Well, and I love money. I really do. And I really love money, a lot. And I struggle with it. I struggle with investing it. I have my upper limits where I keep myself at a certain dollar amount. And I'm just now recognizing that to open up into a greater level of wealth. However, I love money. And what that means is that I'm okay if money comes and I'm okay if money goes. That's love. I'm not saying I'm attached to money. I'm saying I love it, which means please give it to me. And here is some. I'm okay if it comes, if it goes. And that took emotional work. That took identity work to work on. It's no, I'm not okay if money comes. Oh, no, stay away from me, money. That's in my unconscious. Yeah. So if that's in your unconscious around money, how in the world are you going to start something and even begin to sell something and ask for it? You're a lot of folks, they don't understand that they aren't even able to receive money. They're I'm okay. Just try and say out loud, I'm okay receiving money. If there's a no, then you're probably like, without knowing it, you'll probably read like 10 books on sales and still never be able to get yourself to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Well, so I just want to, I do love money. And I do think that a business should be very financially healthy. And I do think people should spend good money to buy stuff. And, I love spending money on things. I bought a $5,000 course recently, and I loved buying it. And, you can buy that now, Dan, you got money. No. Like back when I was 24 and I had like $4 or $5 grand in my name, I spent $1,500 of my dollars on a course by Perry Marshall. And I got to go shake Perry Marshall's hand. And that has made me so much money over the years. I love spending it on courses. I'm so excited to spend money on courses. And I wish people were just like, yeah, I want to buy this and I want to buy this and I want to take this from this and take this from this and just live in that place of love of growth and love of money. And, I bought another course I want to do a podcast, and I've got a great podcast that came out. We've got so many good reviews already. And I just literally come on the podcast and people come on, they tell me how much money they want to make. And I tell them exactly what to do to make. Like I just mentor them. Their live coaching calls recorded. There's nothing like it out there. It's a very different podcast. People are raving about it. They're saying they learn more in a day than they have in the last 5 years if they binge watch that podcast. But to launch that podcast, I needed help. So I bought a podcast course from John Lee Dumas with Entrepreneur on Fire, who's a good friend now. And he's so good at podcasting. He blows my mind. So I paid $1,000 for this course to get one 10-minute phone call with him. I get the whole course, but I don't want to go through that course. Just give me what I need in 10 minutes. And I paid $1,000 to get what I need in 10 minutes because I understand the value. So I get on there, and do you think I was on time for that 10-minute call?
I would be.
I reoriented my day for that 10-minute call. It's 10 minutes. A minute late is 10% loss of a call. And I got everything I needed and more on that. And at the end, it's like, dude, can I pay like $500 or something more for another 10-minute call? He's like, man, I'll give it to you for free. I was like, I think I really want to pay you for it. And he's like, no, I'll give it to you free. Guess what happened? I missed the second call.
Oh.
Pay for stuff, guys. You'll value it more. There's something you can't do, like really, really love money. Like love it. Let it be okay if it comes, and let it be okay if it goes, and be okay charging for money, and be okay with money coming into a business so that the business can be healthy and profitable. So you can be generous with your friends and generous with your family. And like, I've been able to fly my friends to Thanksgivings when they had no family around them.
That's awesome.
Like you can do so much. And like, you're talking about like life vision, I'm like, man, just serve until I'm empty.
I love all of that stuff, man. And so much rings true with every single thing that you're saying. But I always wrap up every single interview with one question. But before we get there, how do people get the book? How do they follow you? What's all the good stuff?
Well, I would love for people to read the book, but if you're not also my interest with the book is not to have, I was fortunate enough to get mentored by someone pretty remarkable. And so from his teaching, man, look how many times I've mentioned mentors on this call. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Get help, guys. Get help wherever you need it. All the time. Get 6 mentors if you need it. From his mentorship, I learned, I don't want to get the most books sold. I don't care about the New York Times. What I care about is having the most books read. And so I don't want to get 10,000 sales on a book and only 1,000 people read it. I only want you to read the book if you're actually going to read it. So don't buy it unless you know you're going to read it. How we can do that is I got a really special URL set up for your listeners. That's startfromzero.com/growth. Startfromzero.com/growth. And that'll be a special URL you can go to, and you'll be able to find the podcast there. Listen to a podcast for a couple of minutes and see if you like it. But you'll also get a book excerpt there that you can read. And there's no email capture to get the book excerpt. The book excerpt's given away free because, it's 2020. Email capture, aggressive email capture was cool in 2006. But if read the excerpt. If you love the excerpt, you'll find a way to stay in touch with me. But the excerpt's really cool because it's a process to find 7 business ideas in 7 days. And you'll go through a 5-question process every day. And over the course of 7 days, you'll get 7 different ideas. And then you'll have an idea that you can build a business with. And I really love that excerpt because in that excerpt, you'll see an example of me doing the process with my partner and finding a painful problem that she wanted solved. And it's a really cool process. You'll see how I found the idea, how the solution could be created, how I would market it. And that's the excerpt there and the podcast there. It's all at startfromzero.com/growth. But what I wanted to do for a podcast like yours, Justin, that I just really believe in, is I want you guys to go and rate Justin's podcast. So if you go, I'll give you guys a chance to get a free one-on-one with me for my podcast, to be on the podcast. Like, Dane, here's my struggle. This is where I'm at. This is the amount of money I want to make. I'll coach you for free one-on-one on the podcast. You get a chance to win. If you rate and review and subscribe to Justin's podcast, and you send a screenshot of your review to hello@startfromzero.com, I'll enter you into a chance to be a one-on-one on the podcast, and that way you can give a thanks to Justin, and I can give you a ethical bribe. And make sure you just give it an honest review. But give Justin an honest review, and then I'll give you guys a chance to have a free one-on-one on the podcast. Email hello@startfromzero.com with your screenshot of the review. Please read the book excerpt. Listen to a few minutes of the podcast. Always say hello. I'm here to help, and honored to have a voice on your show, Justin. Thank you.
Oh, Dane, thank you so much, man. By the way, that's amazing. That's probably one of the greatest things that anybody's ever done on my show, as far as, hey, go rate and review Justin's show. I love that idea. But guys, take advantage of this. Just from talking to Dane for a little over an hour now, it could be an absolutely life-changing opportunity for you. So take advantage, go get the book, do all that good stuff. So obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement, and I wrap up every single interview with this question, and that is, Dane, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Probably the day my mother looked at me when I was 22, just believing I was a total piece of crap. She just looked at me and said with the most relaxed face, "I think you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 26. And I was living in my parents' basement, making less than $1,000 a month at the time. So, yeah, when my mom said that, probably.
That's amazing. And did it hit different? You were like, oh my gosh, I believe you.
No, I didn't believe her at all.
I love that.
And I don't think it happened until I was 28 or 9 or 30 or, millionaire is kind of such a fictitious. I had $1 million cash in the bank before I was 30, but at one time before the government came,
Right.
But
taxes and all the fun stuff.
But that's just a reflection of the value. And I'd say when my mom said it, I had no concept of even being close. I never thought I would be my conscious mind was not even focused on being a millionaire. I just wanted to make it. So to have someone come along and be like, yo, like, for it to be your mother, like, so I just my mother gave me the gift of belief, and I'm here to give the gift of belief to others. So
I love it, man. Dane, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I mean, this conversation has been amazing. I imagine you will be back on the show in the future. My guests my listeners end up choosing the people who come back because they rave about them. And then these people come back, and hopefully we can continue this conversation, go deeper, go in a different direction, because I feel like there's a lot of depth to you, man. And I can't wait to see where that goes. Thank you.
Same to you, Justin. I'm honored to get to know you more.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.